everybody. Greetings from Connecticut. Leslie Plazz here. Zazoo Plazz, who is unofficially turning 6 today, but she's only a year and a half by leap year standards, because I released the book on February 29th, 2020. She's kind of like me, you know. She's always young, right? She's a lot younger than people think. Technically, it's funny, because, you could be a very old soul. I probably have lived hundreds and thousands of lifetimes, but I feel like I'm pretty young. People call me Miss. Oh, by the way, before I get carried away, March 1st, 2026, rabbit. Is it 2 rabbits or 3? 3. Mercury retrograde. It's gonna be good. My heart sucks today. I get my green. I noticed my shirt matches my eyes. My eyes are, I don't know if you could tell, they are hazel green. They match this shirt. It's official. 2 weeks to go before St. Patty's Day, and I got my own. Say hello to my little friend over here. I call him Nomi. He's my buddy. He keeps an eye on me. And then I've got that damn little gold candle in the middle. I got those little glittery thingies all over my couch, all over my apartment. But it's pretty though. It's kind of a nice ambiance. Just before I clicked on record, I saw in my microwave in the kitchen, which is the only clock I have, 444. That's something. Yeah. So, welcome to March. First Zazoo Plazz report of March. Today is something, I don't know, some big thing. I got stories. Oh, goodness. Got stories. At least it didn't snow today. I don't think it's supposed to snow this weekend. We get, some. Last week we got dumped on again. So we got about 2, I don't know. In some places it seems like it's 2 feet. And here it's maybe, about a foot. It's melted down a lot. So it really melts and then we get more. So, it's, whatever. I got out yesterday. I got stories. Because I don't get out very much, when I do go out, I make an impact. People feel my energy, because I'm not beat down by being out every day. I'm here in my place doing my creative work and focusing on myself and, eating healthy, exercising, doing all those things. Sun's in my 6th house now, so bear with me. I know it's boring. I got Saturn in the 6th. I got a lot in the 6th house. Ceres, Chiron. And, astrologers, they gloss over the 6th house. They, it's boring, whatever. But when I focus on the 6th house, I feel like I'm getting somewhere. And my mom knew this as an astrologer, amateur astrologer, There's some people out there, they got all the, oh, listen to me, I'm an astrologer. But the people who really get it, the people who study it for the passion for them, just because it's so good, those are the people who can talk about it with, with passion, and, they know what to focus on. A lot of these people will just, pretend to be astrologers and have all these fancy workshops and things, and people will flock to them because they're shiny, But the people who are down in the grit for years, poring over the original teachers of astrology, those are the ones who know what they're talking about, And that's what I like to do. I like to read the original text, and my mom handed down to me when she passed a lot of those books, And then when I go to the New Age fairs, all the boomers put those on. But there's this guy, I didn't think I was going to talk about him today. There's this guy, he's about 1 million years old. I don't know, he's probably in his 70s. But he's always there at the book table. And he's got like long white hair, down his back. He was there, he was in the 60s. He remembers this, he remembers some of the 60s. But and he's been there the whole time I've been going to the book fair, to the New Age fair. And he's got all these books, different ones each time. And you get talking to the guy, and he knows everything. He's fascinating. You'd walk right by him. It's like, he's a little odd, but so am I. And so every time I go, I get into a conversation. I'll ask him about a book, or he knows the I Ching, whatever. He knows. He can talk for hours about all that stuff. And those are the quirky people I like to hang out with. Anyway, so I'm a little fried because it's been quite a week. It's so anyway, Zazoo Plazz, check out the book if you're new. I'm an author. That's my book. It's on Amazon. It's everywhere. It's in Barnes & Noble. It's on everything. Check it out. Amazon is selling it at half price. It's worth twice what they're paying, but go check it out. Get the book. The book is a better experience. Okay, that's my sales pitch. Okay, and do hit stuff dingy down below. Whatever. Do whatever you have to do. If you like my stuff, watch it. If you don't agree with me, just go away. Move away. That's a hint. That's a hint about the song of the day. Anyway, like I said, I'm a little fried. We're in Pisces season. It's Mercury retrograde. This week, there was one day, like we had, my neighbor, right, upstairs. So she comes and goes. Usually her dog is fine, right? She's got this big, dog. I don't know, one of those sheep hound herding dogs. I don't know. But usually, Ruby is her dog. Ruby's fine. But this week, I don't know, she took off, and that damn dog barked on and off all freaking day. And I was like, and sometimes I sleep during the day and work at night. So I'm trying to sleep every 10 damn minutes. And then I said, it sounded like there were a couple of dogs, but I know she only has one. And then later in the week, I'm getting out of my car yesterday, and I hear in the first building down here, there's all these dogs barking, like 1 million of them. So she must have heard them barking, and she started barking. And so it wasn't her fault. It was her responding to these dogs in the first house. So, and the ladies, she's good. She takes her dog out before she leaves several times. Takes her out. And, but I think the dogs are just restless because they've been cooped up all winter. The dog, run over here is all full of snow. So people can't get up there to let the dogs run, and people can't, go for walks because it's all blocked up with snow. So, that's how you know spring is coming. The dogs let you know. Yeah. So anyway, that's my little story. One of my little stories. Oh, yeah. Here's a creepy story. This is what I do here in Zazoo Plazz. I warm up. I tell some stories from my own personal life, and then I get into the scripture readings for the week, because that's how I bounce off, the energy I'm feeling, and everything ties together, and I serve it up like a nice, corned beef and cabbage with a side of Irish soda bread or, sourdough. Anyway, there we go. So once a year I go to the eye doctor. I hit a couple of towns over. It takes me 15, 20 minutes to get there. So I went and I got my snacks at Job Lot, did my stuff, and on the way home I went and got some groceries. So I'm in this town where, my eye doctor, she used to be right up at the corner here near me, but she moved to this she town, because there's rich people there. And she has an office in this, now they have a sign, in this plain, boring white building, like modern. Everything's all modern in there. She's got brand new everything. But she's exhausted because she never has time for herself because she's running her own up to her eye business. She's an eye doctor and she, sells glasses and all that. Optometrist, yeah. She's a doctor, but so I go and she has all the latest equipment, it shows your eyeball and where you blinked and there's eyelashes there. You could see into your whole eyeball. And she's like she's very she's very picky. Like she wants to get you to see perfectly. She's passionate about that. So I realized. So we were talking because she had seen my oldest son this week, and she said, "Oh, one of your sons was in here. I forget which one it was." And I said, "Oh, it was the tall one, She said, "Yeah, he's on the computer a lot." She said, "Yeah, that's him." And so I was telling her about he's planning a trip to Vietnam with his Vietnamese American girlfriend on her probably on her college break. And so she was saying, my eye doctor's Chinese American. Well, she was born in Canada, but now she's, American. So she was interested. She said, "Oh, what's the capital?" And I had looked it up, and I said, "Oh, I think it's Hanoi." So she said, she's talking to this lady, on her computer screen. She's asking this lady, whatever her name was, Sandy, or I don't know what her name was. She's talking to this lady. In the corner of her screen, I see there's this little top of a head of a lady who's actually, she's like, "Oh, this is so-and-so. She's in on our, checkup today." I'm like, "What the heck is this now?" So the lady's looking up. She says, "Yeah, it's Hanoi, So come to find out, this lady is in the Philippines, right? This lady in the corner. I'm talking to my eye doctor. I think that we're having a private conversation. She's talking about all my medical details and my eyeballs. And there's this lady, a virtual remote medical assistant in the Philippines, who's looking stuff up and, commenting. And I keep looking over at her like, I don't know if I can trust this lady, right? So, but she keeps talking. It's like there's three of us in the room. And so I said, "Oh, you mean like Marty, the robot, the Stop and Shop robot who follows you around the store every time I go." And so I said, "Oh, are you in the same place as the people who, do Marty, track Marty?" You can't take me anywhere. You can dress me up, but you can't take me out. So she didn't know what I was talking about. But whenever I would go into the supermarket, this damn robot would follow me around like he was on to me, And he would go up and down the store, the aisles beeping. And, whenever there was a spill or something, he'd beep, beep. So he would follow me. This one's trouble. I know it. There's some guy in the Philippines, making the robot work. It's probably all AI generated. I don't know. But so my doctor said, "No, she's not AI." She said, "I don't use AI." I said, "Sure, I hope not, because I'm not paying her all that money just to have her, have AI doing everything. She's got a lot of experience. She's a Gen Xer, my doctor. She's a few years younger, but she always, rubs it in that I'm about 6 or so years older than 5, 6 years older. But, now she's catching up. Now she's in her 50s, she's like 52 or 53. And now she's not, she's not doing that so much. Now she's telling me, she's like, oh, I'm so tired and I never have time for myself and I'm working all the time. I'm like, I'm sitting there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'm getting away. Yeah, so I got one more story. I got an invitation to a social event this week. It's not for a few months. Just suffice to say, I don't want to go. I was up all night, like in my dreams. I opened my mailbox and I hate to see a card in there. I hate to see cards from people. I hate to say that. I don't mean to sound like but inevitably they're from people from my family or my past that I've really kind of moved on from. And they're still inviting me to stuff and sending me stuff, and and the more I ignore people, the more they come around. They're like, oh, come to this thing, and here's the registry thing. And so I go on there, and they have all this stuff that they want to buy, and they're like, oh, don't send us any card, buy us a book, and sign the book. Don't send us any cards. I'm like, what the hell is this shit now? People don't want you to send cards on, and it's a happy occasion. It's not like somebody died. It's a happy occasion, But, it's one of those things where it's all afternoon with, food and people. I'd have to buy a dress, wear a damn dress or something. But I'm going back and forth because I got one foot in the new world that I'm going into, and I got one foot in the old world, and I'm like trying to come up with how I'm going to phrase my regrets. And so I keep waking up saying, oh, I could do this, no, I could do that. I could do this, or I could do that. I could go, and then I can leave. I can go. So I went, I got the gift. I got the gift right away. I said, now I'm going to wrap the damn gift, do what they want, sign the book, whatever, wrap it all up, send it in a big box, and I'll tell them right away, I'm not coming. Regretfully, I can't make it. And send the damn gift and be done. And because you see what it does is it blocks my creativity, even when I have to think about people and their drama. See, because I know if I went to this event, there'd be a lot of drama. And I don't want to stick my nose in other people's business. I don't want to know what's going on. I could, if I just close my eyes and think, I can imagine how it's going to be. And I can imagine who's going to be there and the conversations that are going to ensue. I know enough about the situation to say I don't want to be there. And so I'll send my best wishes. I send you my blessings and lots of love and enjoy. And that's it. And I'm moving along. Okay. Okay, Zazoo, get to it. Okay, I'm not being antisocial. I'm simply establishing boundaries for my peace of mind. Okay, let's just leave that there. Let's get that out of the way. I feel so much better. Okay, Genesis, second Sunday of Lent. We are in Lent, although I'm not observing it like, we used to. Anyway, so there's Abram, who's Abraham. Later I guess he's Abraham. Abram. So the Lord's talking to Abraham. He's saying, the Lord told him to, so he's the prophet, he's the beginning one, from whom all the generations are descended, right? The Lord told him to leave his homeland, basically where he was born, where all his people are, his family, and go to a place that will be shown. You know, he doesn't know where God is sending him. He's just saying, get out of there. And I'm sending you somewhere better, you know, where you're going to make a great nation, and I'm going to bless you and bless people who bless you. You know, people who are nice to you will be blessed. Those who aren't nice to you are going to be cursed, right? So Abram did as the Lord said. You know, he obeyed. He didn't know. He had trust. He trusted in God, and he trusted in his own ability to connect to God, right? So, it's, you know, this sounds, Lord, let your mercy be on us as we place our trust in you, right? So God loves, you know, things, he loves justice. He loves the upright, right? And righteousness, right? The right ways. And people who trust him, right? You know, if you're a God-fearing person, it doesn't mean fear in a low, energetic way. I think, I might be wrong, but I think it just means that, you know, fearing as in, you know, it's a fearsome sight, right? Today is the day of the reading from Matthew of the Transfiguration, you know, and it's like the apostles who went up with Jesus on the mount, and he's transformed, right? It was a fearsome sight. In other words, it makes you feel, you know, you're in awe. It's more of being in awe of God, realizing that you're, you know, that you are part of God's plan, right? And knowing how important it is that you fulfill that, because only God knows where everything fits in, right? And if you know, heaven help you if you drop the ball and you don't, you know, but you'll do it anyway. You know, this is fulfilling your dharma, right? Your, not just your karma. You get rid of your karma, but it's like, you know, God's got all the plates spinning. He wants to, you know, he's got a job for everybody, right? And you want to get yourself, you know, a high enough energy so that you can realize what your role is, because then that's when life starts, okay? That's when your blessings start flowing in. Anyway, so, yeah, but we don't have to, you know, if you can trust that, you know, God is kind, right? You trust in God's kindness and mercy. In other words, he understands that we're down here and we're human, right? And if you think God is kind, you see the world as a kind place. If you think, you know, if you're of the opinion that, you know, God is a punishing God and, you know, wants to, you know, the fire and brimstone and all that sin stuff, then you're going to see the world as a, you know, a fear in the other way. You're going to see it as a dangerous, mean place, right? And the earth plane is rough, but, you know, if you raise your consciousness, then you begin to see, you know, you have a shift in your attitude, and life begins to reflect in the, you know, third dimension in your everyday world, the way, you know, the energy that you've connected to. So God's got your back, basically. If you're on his team, right? You know, we don't have, God will be our help and our shield, not other people, right? We alone are responsible for our own spiritual development and growth, right? Nobody's gonna hold our hand, right? So, okay. Second letter to Timothy, beloved. So that's important, that word beloved, I think. You know, because we are beloved. It's bear your share of hardship for Jesus with the strength that comes from God. So that's what I'm talking about. We were called, from the very beginning of our soul, we were called to perform a particular role, right, in God's new kingdom, just like Abram. This is the great call, the thing we are called to, right? And a holy life. That's what a holy life. Not by just doing good deeds, just to be seen for, giving to charity. No. That thing that only we, by our unique design, which we can see in our astrology chart, which we can see in our human design diagram, all of those arts, things that were provided there in the heavens for us to see and for us to learn from. But now that Jesus has come to show us, we have a model, right, for how to live authentically. Okay, so that's what Paul was saying in the second letter to Timothy, right? But he said, beloved, he's saying, put up with, the hardships that come your way, because you have strength from God, right? So that falls into place. In other words, those hardships are put there to teach us lessons and they make us stronger, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You've heard that, right? So we should be thankful for those hardships because they're what, along our path, that's what makes us, the people we are. We're washing our robes and making them clean. So you're right. Those are blessings, those challenges, not hard. They're sent to us if we're lucky, But we have to view them as such. We can't say, oh, it's because God why does God send me all these problems? Well, because you're blessed. If you have problems, you're still alive, right? So, in other words, but we can't interfere in other people's paths. In other words, I can be out here and talk, and I hope that people are, I hope that you're getting something from my words, and I hope that you see them and they inspire you on your own individual path, because it's not for me to say, do what I do, right? Because what I do is right for me, but I can talk about my path in hopes that other people will be inspired to find their own truth and their own purpose. So I'll throw that out there. Because you could throw somebody off. They're going along and say, oh, Zazoo says to go over here. No, because next week I'll be saying something else. I'm just giving you the report. It's the Zazoo Plazz report, folks. It's part humor, part good stuff, and I'll leave it to you to sift it out. Okay. Discernment. So, talking about the mountain, right? The mountain stands and the valley can't help but see it. I'm a mountain. Anyway, human design. So we talk about the Transfiguration, where Jesus, takes his friends, Peter, James, and John. They're brothers, James and John. He takes up the high mountain, and they see him. All of a sudden, they see this vision, right? He's all lit up, and white light, and he's talking to Moses, Elijah, the prophets, and they're watching this thing, and Peter is into this trance kind. It's like a trance, right? They're hypnotized. He's like, oh Lord, it's so great that we're here. I'm going to set up 3 tents, one for you and one for Moses. And he's, how sometimes you're, in a dream and it seems so real, right? It's so real that you're almost there, right? And you want to, do things. And it's so real, and then you wake up and it's like, whoa. And real life seems like the dream, right? And the dream seems like real life. So, but this, they're there, and then this cloud comes over, casts a shadow, and I can imagine God's voice thundering down, "This is my beloved son, listen to him." And so they fall, in fear, in honor, just out of respect, they fall down and at his feet. And then when they look up, it's gone. They're like lying there in the dirt. What just happened? But they remember it, and Jesus said, get up, don't be afraid. He's telling them not to be afraid in the way the humans are afraid. He says, just keep it on the low, down low, until the Son of Man is raised from the dead. Right? So don't tell anybody about this, because people wouldn't understand, and they would say, "You're crazy. You go around talking about this stuff, telling people that you saw Moses and Jesus." No. Okay, so it wasn't time yet, right? And timing is very important. So I'll just leave that there. So the song of the week. This is how it came about. I opened my laptop tonight to start preparing, and I see at the bottom of my screen, Google Chrome or whatever, in all its helpfulness, is telling me that Culture Club, Boy George and Culture Club, is coming to the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut tonight. And they had tickets for like $65. I could have gone. Boy George is in Connecticut right now. And I said, no, there's no way I can go, because I got up. I'm going to be sleeping then, because I got up last night at like 5 p.m. So I said, there's no way in the world that I can get out to mash into Uncasville, buy my ticket and get that out to Uncasville, for tonight. Anyway, it's like 12 hours. I don't know, 12. It's going to be like 8 o'clock tonight or something. There's no way I can go. Too late. But I wish I could have. Anyway, so then I said, Culture Club. Maybe, so I get Culture Club songs, and this song pops up, "Move Away." Now, this song was released, and I didn't know this, all right? I barely remembered this song. I don't think I even ever really heard it. It was released, get this, 40 years ago this week. I had no idea. March 3rd, 1986. I was 21. No, wait. How old was I? 20. I was 20. Junior year in college. Written by Boy George and, the rest of the guys in the Culture Club. It was the lead single from their fourth album, From Luxury to Heartache. So it got to number 12 on the U.S. Billboard. It was their last U.S. top 40 hit. And it got, in top 10 in, UK and a lot of other, it did well in the UK and a lot of other, because they're from, they're British. A lot of other European countries, too, it did well. But the videos, I don't remember them. I don't remember these videos. There's two of them that I found. One of them, it's like he's silent film stars. He and John Moss, who's, I think, the drummer. There's this black and white segment where they're in cars. They're trying to force each other off the road. And then there's like Italian subtitles and things, and this woman on he's like walking by a movie marquee, and there's a woman up there who's one of his friends, and it's cool. And then I find this other like remastered video. I'll put both of them from like he's on stage. It's from '86. It's very '80s. He's got the spiky hair, the big jacket with all. There are these mannequins in tinfoil. You gotta see it. This was the '80s, folks, okay? Tinfoil covered mannequins. But anyway, very entertaining. I'll put both of them. It's the same song, but 2 different videos. Yeah. So, but the reason it's appropriate, move away, which is what God said to Abram, right? Move away. It says, see some of the lyrics. I hurt you, darling. It's like God knows that we've been hurt. We've had hardships, right? Don't ask me why, because we won't know why, right? And also, Jesus couldn't tell them why, the apostles, before he died, right? It had to be a mystery. It says, I never wanted to be a hero. I never wanted to be a man. That's Jesus. He became a man, but he probably didn't want to, right? He came down here for a purpose, like we did. And our spirits, we're floating around the spirit world, and then we get down here like, why did I do this? Why did I incarnate? I never wanted this. Anyway, spirit changed the conversation, stepping stones across the land, right? And that's in the way that Jesus gave us stepping stones, a way to proceed forward, right? We have one lesson after the other, and we get a little bit closer to where we're supposed to go. I never said I'd hold your hand. I never said I'd understand, right? Because, while we have guides, right? They can only do so much for us, our angels, right? And they can't understand if they haven't been in human form. Our, spirits, angels, they wouldn't understand, right? There's a limit there. If you've been human, you have that ego. You have that understanding, right? And Jesus has that because he was. Okay? So, yeah. And so we're on our own. I couldn't tell you, if I knew on Judgment Day, I'd be a millionaire. He says that. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's cheeky. It's a pop song. It's a great 80s pop song. And he has a great voice, Boy George. I mean, I could never get enough of Boy George. I wish I knew that they were coming. I would have baked a cake. Anyway, but it looks like they're just about sold out because there were only like a few tickets here and there. But they were good price, decent price. So, kudos to them for not charging through the roof for their ticket prices. I couldn't find any above $105, which is, I'd pay that to see Boy George. Always wanted to see them. Damn it. Goes my heat. Oh well. Oh, a couple more things before I go. It turns out Boy George is going to be playing King Herod in some London production of Jesus Christ Superstar this summer. And the other thing, he collects religious icons. And back in 2011, I'm going to put a link for this story. He found out that one of his artifacts, a picture of Jesus, which was Greek Orthodox, it was stolen in 1974 in the Turkish invasion of Cyprus. And so he went and gave it back to them. He went to Cyprus and gave it back to the Greek Orthodox Church where it was stolen from. And then they gave him another, painting to take its place. But this was a very sacred, holy. It had been hanging, and he knew that he paid a lot of money for it, but he didn't do it, he did it in good faith. He had bought it in good faith, and it was verified, original, because he collects those. So I say, Boy George, he's a good guy, I love his music, and he seems to be a very good person. So, and I think he's half Irish, so that's perfect for March. He's a Gemini too. He's a Gemini. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to go have my nice paleo hot chocolate like I do, my little snack. I'm making, I'm going to make the jambalaya. I didn't make it last week. I'm going to make it this week. Maybe I can get in the laundry this morning. Yeah, so I will return. Have a great week. Enjoy March. And enjoy the week. Have fun. Take care. I will be back next week, same place, different time. Bye-bye.